It's Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We're in Lansing, Michigan today, inside the state capitol. We are joined by Brandt Iden. He is a member of the Michigan House of Representatives. And let's face it, Uber, Lyft, incredibly popular in Michigan, throughout the entire nation. But now there's a question of regulation.
Sure.
Local regulation, state regulation, national regulation. You're looking at the state side. What can you tell us about the regulation of Lyft, Uber, ride sharing in Michigan?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Of course.
Again, always great to be here.
For sure.
Yeah, as we talk about transportation network companies, the debate started because local municipalities decided that they were going to start enacting local laws to regulate those companies. And so these network companies came to the legislature and they said, we'd like you to put a regulation in place. And so, you know, this doesn't often happen in the industry. They don't want extra regulation, but they said, you know, we need something to govern us statewide.
Right.
And so that's what we did. So we've got a package of bills out there that do a number of different things, ranging from the insurance regulation.
Well, let's go through that because I think it's important. The first element is the question of a background check.
Yep.
We know what happened in Kalamazoo, a tragedy beyond all tragedies. So we're looking into who's driving, our children, our teenagers, our adults. Tell us about the background check scheme.
That's very important. Obviously, I come from the Kalamazoo County area, and so this really touched home with us in February. And so as I worked through this, I wanted to make sure that the regulations were in place so that the background checks were there. And so there are going to be in-depth, detailed checks that you now have to provide that information to your transportation network company. So all that information, if you want to be a driver, is going to go to Uber, it's going to go to Lyft, etc., and they're going to have that on file. And so there are certainly more checks that are in place now.
Let's talk about the question of fingerprinting. That became a question. I think it was in Austin, Texas, the ride-sharing services felt as if fingerprinting was too onerous. Talk us through that.
Yeah, and that was, we did talk a lot about that. And that was the case. We felt that when we took a look at this, that might be just a little bit too much. We said, you know, we don't necessarily need to have the company maintain all these files and all these records when it came to the fingerprinting. So we said, you know, if you've supplied the paperwork necessary that we believe we, the state of Michigan, and the company believe that you're a safe driver, you can be out there transporting our friends, family, etc. Then that's good enough for us.
What about the question of insurance, which is a much broader question in the state of Michigan, but as it relates to ride sharing, what about insurance?
Yeah, well, this piece of the legislation is my piece. And so well, thank you.
Congrats.
Very important piece as we talk about the auto no-fault industry, and we want to make sure that if you're involved in an accident, that not only the driver, as would be the case, but you as a rider are also going to be covered as well. And so we want to ensure that the legislation covered the vehicle and everyone in it.
So no fault?
Correct.
Fantastic. I want to talk about the inspection of vehicles. Again, that can be a bit onerous. So it looks like Michigan came up with a nice compromise on that question.
Yeah, again, same thing. We worked directly with the company and said, what works best for you? Because again, they came to us and they said, we want to be regulated and we want to make sure that it's not too onerous. We're not getting out ahead of them. We're not asking them to do too much, but we want to make sure that the vehicles are safe and secure. And that's the number one. I mean, the number one thing here behind this legislation is ensuring that safety, ensuring that we not only have safe and competent drivers, but that the vehicles are also going to be safe. And then when you get in the vehicle, you're going to be safe as well. So you feel, you know, hey, you come to the state of Michigan, you're downtown, wherever, you hit your Uber app, it's going to be safe, you're going to get home safe, and that's what we're looking for.
So as I understand it, inspections for vehicles 5 years and older, is that what we're looking at?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, let's talk about another exciting development in the area of transportation. That is driverless vehicles.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless to think that someone's going to be driving me and it's not me. It's literally a computer. Detroit is on the forefront of that. And there's a big question about how far do we go and how quickly do we go? So Michigan is out on front.
Oh, absolutely.
And so what can you tell us about autonomous driving?
Well, a couple things, and I'll tie that into Uber a little bit.
Yeah, please.
Because in Pittsburgh right now, Uber is actually operating autonomous vehicles and they're commuting with passengers right now. So they do have a person that's sitting behind the wheel, and just to make sure that nothing goes wrong, again, safety checks, but Uber said, we want to be out in the forefront of this. We want to be out ahead. And so they've actually got 10 vehicles on the road in Pittsburgh right now that are transporting you. So you might get, if you're in Pittsburgh and you're traveling, you might get an autonomous vehicle. And so we looked at that and we said, Michigan needs to be out in front
Of course.
this. And there's so many economic benefits, not only for just the industry in general in the traditional auto manufacturing sense, but technology as well. This is where the next generation of vehicles, this is where we're going. And if Michigan wants to remain competitive on a global scale, this is what needs to happen. And so we've said we've been testing autonomous vehicles for years. Now we're saying, let's put them out on the road. Let's see them in action. And again, same thing, we're going to phase it in. We're going to put a driver behind the wheel to make sure nothing goes wrong, to make sure, that they're safe, but the technology's going there very quickly.
What's amazing to me is Michigan is only one of 8 states plus DC that allows the mere testing.
Right.
I mean, you would think other states would want to get ahead of it, but obviously Michigan being the auto capital of the nation, it makes sense that Michigan's looking forward on that. What about the question of the federal government? Aside from the incoming administration, I'm sure the feds are looking at this question, or do they even need to? Is this a purely state law question?
Well, I hope it remains that way.
Right, there you have it.
I certainly hope it remains that way. But we'll see. With the new administration, we'll see which direction they want to go in. Obviously, as generally happens, it's going to be a safety issue.
Right.
And so as long as Michigan is maintaining that
framework?
Framework, and that it's safe and secure, then I don't see any reason for the feds to get involved. We'll see what happens.
I want to talk also about the incoming administration. There's no question that the state of Michigan took kindly to the incoming president in terms of his measures on trade.
Yeah.
Because look, we're in the Rust Belt, and you can say a lot of things about trade, but there is a question about how trade has impacted Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, but there is some trepidation in Detroit and Michigan generally about the question of tariffs.
Yeah.
And if the trade rhetoric gets even more fevered, what will happen as it relates to the sale of autos out of Detroit, which have been booming? I mean, it's been a great time. So talk me through this.
Well, again, a little bit, my personal opinion, a little bit of speculation on this, of course.
All good.
But I mean, we look back at the campaign cycle, you will definitely see that the president-elect worked very closely with those Midwest states that have traditionally been auto manufacturing, what we would call, what have been deemed the Rust Belt. I don't like to call it that.
I don't
like to call it that.
I agree.
But that was, I mean, he focused on that, and his numbers did very well there because of the message was putting folks back to work. The message was jobs in the economy. And I think, so again, personal opinion, part of the question, I think he's going to be able to balance that very well, because I think he understands that. He said, look, we not only need to put these people back to work, but we need to ensure that the tariff piece doesn't come into play, so that we need to export vehicles. That's what we're doing, and we've already seen some of this. It started in Indiana. I mean, he hasn't even taken office yet. It started in Indiana.
We saw some of that.
And that's going to continue. We've seen it with Ford and the Mexico job. It's the same thing.
But the challenge, though, is look. In a perfect world, of course we want the jobs to be in the United States of America. We're Americans. But there are economies of scale question.
Sure.
And so with maybe some of the manufacturing going on in Mexico, that can help keep the price down in America if we want to buy a Ford. So how do you, as a state legislator, work with Washington to let them understand that it is a balance?
Sure, and that's important, but I would also probably argue that competition in the market is also going to create those pressures. If you're able to get more people back to work, the better production of vehicles, you're producing autonomous. If you're producing a better car, that's going to create competition in the market. That's going to lower price. People are going to want to purchase better cars. It doesn't matter necessarily who's manufacturing them.
I hear you.
So.
His name is Brandt Iden. He is a member of the Michigan House of Representatives. We are coming to you today from Lansing, Michigan. My name is Brad Pomerance. We are so glad you're joining us on Charter Local Edition.